What's going on? So the next episode on my series of teaching you how to program for yourself, I decided to do the subject of exercise selection. It's one of the most overlooked things, and people just randomize the selection of what they're lifting. And I'm going to show you that it's better. There's a method you can use to pick the exercises that are going to benefit you the most. So like in my other videos I said, there's no busy work, so you're not actually going in and wasting a bunch of time on doing exercises that really aren't going to help you very much. So the exercise that I usually do, or the method I usually use in all my athletes for programming, I always do a weakness focused program style. So if they've been with me before in a previous cycle, then I look back at the cycle, what things did I do wrong as a coach, what ways did they improve, what ways did they get worse, and then I attack the weak points. So you have to go and assess that last training cycle or how the workouts have been going, and then you have to have an honest conversation with yourself about, okay, did I do something wrong, or did I overlook an aspect of my training and now I'm lacking in that area? So I always like to write it down. So this will always depend on what your goals are. So that will always depend on your compound lift. So I'm just gonna write this down. I'm sorry if it's like messy. I have horrible handwriting. So I'm just gonna write down compound lifts. So I will write it for maybe a power lifter right now, just to give you the idea of what I'm talking about. Compound lifts. So what is in my training cycle year? What am I preparing for? Am I preparing for a competition? Am I preparing for a season? That's gonna be our focus on our compound lifts. So the compound lifts for a power lifter might not be the same thing as a football player. Okay, so you just have to do pros and cons and what you think to expect from the outcome of the progression of that lift over a period of a training year. So a whole year of a mesocycle. So that's going to determine what you want to do when you're planning. Okay, so compound lifts is our powerlifting. Obviously, we have the three main lifts, right? So bench press, or so I'll do back squats first because that's the order in competition. Back squats, bench press, and deadlift. Again, sorry for my handwriting. So just your three compound lifts, right? So it's pretty easy for the compound lifts. After that, once you recognize the three things or the lifts that you really want to focus on, and that's gonna be your main focus on your lifts or your days. So when you walk in, those are gonna be the first lifts that you hit. They're the most important that you utilize your energy for, and you get the best quality reps and sets out of those. So those usually take the most time during your lifts when you're lifting in the gym. Okay, so the second thing that we do to plan is we look at the progression of it. Okay, so as the weeks go on in those microcycles, so every week, am I going to progress this lift in a movement way, in a variance way, in terms of like, am I going to start adding pauses to it? Or am I double pausing it, or am I pulsating it? Whatever am I doing to progress this lift? So with a compound lift that we're training for powerlifting, I'm gonna leave the variance the same. So it's gonna be the same exact lift, but I'm gonna progress them in intensity and volume. So that's how I'm gonna progress these compound lifts in the first block. Okay, so that's a pretty simple, I'm gonna close that now, and now I'm gonna go to the next step, which is secondary compound lift. So this is, to me, the most important in programming, because now I get to attack my weak points. So I'll use my bench press just as an example, okay? So if I look back at my bench press, my last training cycle, and I'm starting to see these areas that I'm lacking in, okay? So if I go to a competition, and then on my third attempt, the weight's there, the weight felt good, but then I'm coming and I'm not able to lock out, which is a common mistake that people have, or a common weakness that people have. Okay, so I'm coming to the top, I just can't, I don't have enough energy to lock out that point right there. So what I want to do now is I want to overload that focus with my secondary compound lifts. So the first thing I'm going to look at is, okay, what lift can I do that's going to maximize output in that specific area, but then not cause weaknesses in my other areas, so that I'm not going to be falling behind, but I'm only strengthening myself, right? So I'm having a problem with that lockout right there. I'm going to look at now pin presses. Okay, so pin presses is isolation. I'm pausing at a certain point in the pin in a squat rack, and I'm actually pressing from a dead stop. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, there's no momentum. I can go specific to where that location is, and then that's gonna help me derive more power and strength through that pushing point. Okay, so I can go pin press for bench press. And I'll just do bench press right now because it's gonna take too long if I do every lift in my weak points. I'm just giving you an example of what to do. So pin press. So from now, I'll be specific. You always want to be pretty specific on what you're doing so that you can progress it properly. So I'm gonna go 3-inch off the chest, pin press, okay? And that's a normal, regular grip. I don't want to throw too much variance in it right now, but now I get to look at, okay, how am I progressing this over the next 3 to 4 week period in that block? And so the next microcycles into my full 4 week block, okay? So then I can look now and say, okay, I'll give the science behind it first. You can do the same exact workout for 2 weeks and still be adapting to it. So your body takes 2 to 3 weeks to adapt to a single movement, to a single pattern, or rep schemes, intensities. So I can do this same exact workout for 2 weeks and my body's still growing from it. That's traditionally how you want to do strength training, is do the same exact workout for 2 weeks and then throw variance at it. But I like to throw a little more variance because it just causes more growth. So I do the same exact movement, but I'll throw a small bit of variance into it so that then it's causing more stimulation and telling my body to get better at that movement. So that next progression for the 2, 3, and 4 weeks, I can go either 5-inch off the chest, so you can see this progression right here, okay? So now I can progress myself to 5 inches off the chest, maybe that week after or the week after that. So the 3rd week to the 4th week, I can progress to 5 inches off the chest with a higher intensity, but now I'm adding bands to it. So now there's that extra stimulus that's, as I'm pressing out, I'm getting more flexion, or I'm getting more resistance. So as I'm locking out that weight, I'm locking out more weight through that point. I like to use bands a lot because there's a progressive overload. That progressive overload is going to stimulate the muscles and the central nervous system to get stronger through that push. And it's going to keep constant tension. And then it usually solidifies the bar path. So I want to have a plan for my progressions. That's super important to have because now I can plan to where I'll be 4 weeks from now. And I can plan to have those weak points be stronger points, okay? So I'm not gonna do the other lifts, but then now I'm gonna move on to that third thing that I usually do for all programming. So then now I'm going accessories. I'm not even sure if I spelled that right. Accessories, okay? But then before I would do the accessories, I would go through and do at least 1 to 2 secondary compound lifts for every one of these compound lifts, right? So I usually wanna have 2 secondary compound lifts to my main compound lift. So I'll have 2 different types of secondary compound lifts for my deadlifts, bench press, and squats each. So this list should usually be around 6 to 8 lifts. So it'd be like pin press and incline. Or for deadlifts, it'd be like front squats and trap bar deadlifts, so stuff like that, okay? So for the accessories, I'm looking at that same thing. What is my weakness that I need to improve on that I can actually benefit from, but also gain in other areas while I do that lift? I don't want busy work. I don't want to waste time in the gym. That's the last thing I want to do. I got better shit to do with my day than to be fucking just beating my body up all day and not getting better from it. Accessory. So I'm gonna look at what's an accessory I can load that chest that could help with the lockout position, and then force me to grow in like my other areas that can make me stronger in my bench press. So my triceps, my lats, my rear delts, my chest. So the first thing that pops in my mind is weighted dips. So let me go weighted dips. And then another one, if I'm talking about lockout and having to solidify bar path and that progression in the press, how to get stronger at that. And then so the next one will be dumbbell floor press. So with the progression for the weighted dips over that week, the same thing as the pin press, I'm gonna add either weight or bands, so it's causing more tension. So that's the type of way that you wanna progress. So the first thing is have a plan to find the actual workout that's gonna fix those weak points that you've created through your past cycles. And now I want to reverse that whole trend and cause myself or plan myself workouts that are gonna maximize the strength in those weaknesses while also making everything else better around me, okay? So the weighted dips is gonna focus on my chest, and that's a lot of things that people don't understand is that chest locks out that last part of that weight. They think it's triceps. No, triceps are in the mid part where they're engaging the chest to lock out to squeeze. If you've ever failed a lift, a bench press right here, your chest is basically cramped the hell out. You're like, when you're done with that lift, you're like, fuck, my chest is about to like, cramp up. It's because it's trying to lock that weight out. It's trying to pull those arms back together to push the weight into that lockout position. So you have to understand the lift in order to understand what your weak points are, and then because that's going to be very important to plan how to get better at that weakness. If you don't understand the movement, so if I thought that the triceps locked that out, then now I'm gonna spend a ton of fucking time on my triceps. I might do something wrong like tricep extensions and then skull crushers all day, and I'm wondering why my lockout isn't getting better. It's because you don't even understand the movement yet to understand whatever weaknesses you had to get strengthened. So first, important, understand your movement, become a master of it, really understand the bar path or whatever sport-specific tendencies that you need for that movement, and then you can make a plan with your secondary compounds, your accessories, and you always have a plan for whatever weak points that you have. Don't just, no rhyme or reason, picking random shit just because it looks cool. That's a huge problem I see with the gym. People are just doing things to look cool. I'm on the seated shoulder press machine, but I'm standing on the seat doing shrugs. Why? What the fuck are you doing? Stop doing stupid shit. That's one thing. Stick to what works. Know your plan, know your body, know your weak points, know your strength points. Really focus on those weak points. Be a overall great athlete. Full rounded, full spectrum, everything. Then you will be successful at whatever you want to do. So just a 3-step thing that's super easy. It only took me 11 minutes to explain it. Compound lift, pick your compound lifts, then go into your secondary list, but focus on your weak points. Make sure that those secondary compound lifts are attacking the weak points. I'll say it again, attack your weak points. Then as an accessory, accessorize your weak points. Go attack your weak points again, but have in mind that you want something that's gonna be a full spectrum, what's gonna make me better at everything, but it's gonna focus a lot on my weak points too. So I hope this helps. I'm gonna keep giving you tips, and I hope that, in some way I'm making your lifts a little bit better, or I'm making your life a little bit better. So if I'm going into the mental aspects of whatever I'm doing, or just the planning. So hopefully that you guys can focus a little bit more on just working hard and not so much about the silly workouts that you want to do to get better. But I hope this gives you a little bit of clarity on how to become an elite lifter or an elite athlete.